One of the most common questions we get here at Omni Digital Group is how much should I be spending on ads? So we're going to talk about that today specifically for Facebook and Instagram for the retail businesses out there in the local market. So first of all, let's just talk about exactly how much should you spend. So if you're a retailer, you need to be spending, if you're an established business, actually let's start with brand new. If you're a brand new business, maybe been around a year or two, you're newer to the market, you need to be spending 10% on your marketing, minimum. And I really think it doesn't all have to be spent on Facebook and Instagram. I typically recommend to clients to spend about half of that. So if you're gonna spend 10% overall, you wanna dedicate at least half of it, 5% going towards Facebook and Instagram. If you're an established business, you need to be spending in the neighborhood of 4 to 6%. So if you've been around for 20, 30, 40 years, you wanna be making sure you're spending in that. So we'll call it older businesses, new. So that's really the breakdown. And I come across it so often where so many companies are only spending 1 to 2% of their revenue on marketing. And it really depends on your goals for a business. And that's another thing I would encourage you to do is really understand how much do you want to grow? We're sitting at towards the end of 2025 here. How much do you want to grow in 2026? Because if you're only growing at 5 to 8%, maybe 10% per year, but you want to grow at that 20, 25% plus, you just have to do things differently. And I've made content on this before, but you can look at the ads that your competitors are running in the area on Facebook's ads library, and most of your competitors probably aren't even running ads. So you could have it all to yourself in your local market and that percentage. Another thing, just to get you to think about why you need to spend this much, the target for a return on ad spend. So every single advertising platform is going to operate on a return on ad spend. So if you spend $1, how much do you get back? The target you really need to be aiming for here is anywhere from 5 to 10x on your ROAS. So every dollar you spend, you're getting 5 to 10 back. So you have to think about this. If you're only spending 1% of your revenue on marketing, let's say you're $1 million business, that means you're spending $10,000 per year on your marketing. If you got a 5x ROAS on that, so let's say you're spending $10,000 per year on $1 million business, that's $50K in additional revenue, right? So that's 5% growth. And that's not taking into consideration anything else. And that's kind of what I'm getting at here. And a 10x return would also, if you increase that return, it would give you 10% growth. So you have to be looking at how much you're spending, what is the return on your actual dollar you're getting. But let's say we were in that, let's take it from, instead of 1%, let's take it to 5%. So this is 1%. Let's take this to 5%. So on $1 million business, that means you're going to $50,000 in spend. So let's say you got a 5x return on that. Well, now that's $250K in additional revenue to your business. So now you just grew 25%. And this is another common thing I get is when it comes to ad spend, you have to spend enough to actually get that growth for your business. So it might be a little bit scary spending 5%. Like if you're only spending 1 or 2% right now and you go to 5%, you're 5xing, at least doubling the expense that's going out for your business. And I completely understand that. That's where it goes back to your goals as a business. So the companies that I'm working with that are growing very considerably, one, very top of mind that comes to it, they're spending in that 5 to 7% range and they're having huge month over month. So really would encourage you, new business, just to kind of regroup this, 10% of your revenue. If you're brand new, within a year or two old, if you're established, you've been around for 5, 10, 15, 20 plus years, you can get away with 4 to 6%, but it's also encouraging you to figure out your expenses to how to spend 10%. Because if you're an established business spending 10%, you're gonna have some very serious growth. So this is the actual spend overall. And then the only other thing you can really control is looking at your ROAS. So what is your return for a brand new customer walking through your doors? What is that customer acquisition cost and how much money are you making for every dollar that you spend? You want to be in that 5 to 10x return on ad spend range. I was just talking to a client this morning, brick and mortar store. They're averaging an 8.6 return on ad spend right now in one of their local markets. So they're literally just printing money and you have to find that recipe. And we'll produce more video content in the future, but this is the number one thing that I get asked is how much do I spend? So going with that $1 million business, they need to be spending about $50,000 per year on their market. So let us know with any questions in the comments below, but just be spending enough to get real growth in your business.